Here we go. Okay, so we are starting a brand new unit today, Unit 3, Inequalities. Now, before we start talking about inequalities, I did want to introduce these symbols to you guys. We have a greater than symbol, and we have a less than symbol. And you can see here, I drew little teeth in them because that's going to make more sense when we put them in between some numbers. Now, one thing that helps us remember which symbol is which phrase, greater than or less than, is I like to think of it as just like whenever we're reading a sentence. In math, we read our number sentence, our problems, from left to right. So whichever end of the symbol I hit first, which in this case, the greater than, I hit the large opening first, that's going to be the greater than because I'm seeing the bigger side first, left to right. And if I keep going left to right, I hit the small part of the less than symbol first. So greater than, the opening, the big part comes first. Less than, the closed small part comes first. And I think this will make more sense as we put it in context. So I have all the answers written on here, and I want to rewrite them so I don't just give them to you. I want to talk about them with you. So for number 1, we had -3 is what then 10? What did you guys say?
Less than.
Less than. Good. So if we are looking at a number on a number line, all we're really doing is seeing, I'll show you here. Here's my 0. 10 is somewhere over here. And -3 is somewhere over here. -3 is less than 10 because it is closer to that negative side. It is a negative number, in fact. And 10 is larger because it's more towards the positive numbers as numbers increase. And it is a positive number. So, number 1, we have -3 is less than 10. Perfect. Let's look at number 2. Number 2, I did something a little different for you guys. I put 25 plus 2 is what then 28. So how are we going to figure out what symbol to put here if we don't have 2 normal values? Yeah, we want to kind of simplify this side. We cannot compare them until we have them in the same kind of form. So what is 25 plus 2? It's 27. So now I can see I've got 27 is what then 28? Is less than. So I'm going to write less than. All right. Let's look at number 3. Number 3, I gave you something even trickier. I put 3 times the quantity of whatever 2 plus 3 is what? Then 12. What did you guys do to simplify this side? There's 2 different ways you could do it.
I did this. 2 plus 3 is 5.
Okay.
To 5 up above them, and then I did times. I went 3 times 5. And then wrote 15 below them.
Yeah, perfect. So what Lewis said he did is he just did what was in parentheses first, which is 2 plus 3, and that's 5. And did that times 3. And 3 times 5 is 15. So now you can compare 15 and 12. I heard somebody else say a different way. How else could you do this? You could distribute. I could do 3 times 2, which is 6. Plus 3 times 3, which is 9, and 6 plus 9 is also 15. So it works no matter how you do it. Both ways work. All right. Now we know that we are comparing 15 and 12. So 15 is what then 12? Greater than. Good. Greater than. All right, and last one. This one might be the trickiest of all, just because we're comparing negatives here, and I think negatives can be a little confusing sometimes. It's easy to get a little backwards on them. I have negative 36 is what then negative 2 times 50?
Less than.
Well, first, what is this value going to be?
That's going to be negative 2 times 50.
Yeah, and what is negative 2 times 50?
Negative 100.
Yes, negative 100. So, negative 36 is what than negative 100? Greater. Good. I want to show you visually why that is true. When I'm looking at these two numbers, I would think, well, 36 is not bigger than 100. 36 is smaller than 100. But when we are looking at negatives, we got to think about it, guys. They behave a little differently than positive numbers. So I have my 0 here. And then remember, as we go to the left towards the negatives and as the numbers decrease, my negative numbers get larger, even though their value decreases. So I start at negative 1, then I go negative 2, negative 3, and then skip a few, negative 36, skip a few more, negative 100 is over there, okay? So whenever I am comparing these two, even though 100, positive 100, is bigger than positive 36, negative 100 is actually smaller. It's a smaller value than negative 36. I like to think of it in terms of money. Would you rather have negative 100 in your bank account or negative 36? Right, probably neither, but negative 36 is a little bit easier to recover from because it is a smaller, or it's a bigger amount of money. It's negative money still, so it isn't money, but you know what I mean. You owe less in this case. So negative 36 is bigger than negative 100. Now here's another way to keep track of what these signs mean and how to tell which way the opening should face. Like I was saying before, you could draw little teeth on them, and I pretend this is like my alligator or my little monster guy, and he's gonna face his mouth towards the bigger thing because he wants to eat the big thing. He's hungry. So whenever I'm trying to compare my two numbers, I know that 10 is bigger, bless you, so my little alligator is gonna be eating the 10. So that's a good way to keep those numbers straight. I'm not going to ever judge if I see you putting little teeth on your symbols on your quiz. It helps me, so it might help you. Okay. So guys, let's talk about what we're going to learn today. Before we do though, does anyone have questions about any of this? Do we all feel okay about it? Good. All right. We are going to learn today what is an inequality. We're going to talk about less than versus greater than, which honestly, we just did that. We just talked about it. Do we understand the difference between less than and greater than? We'll talk about it some more too. We'll talk about it some more. Okay? We're going to learn how to solve an inequality. And then we're going to graph an inequality. Now don't be scared of that. It is not hard. It's actually very easy. Like I said, my first period came in here and they did wonderfully with it. They said it's pretty fun. I think it's satisfying, and it's literally like you're just drawing a picture and coloring it. It's very simple. So, again, when I see my big opening towards a number, that means that this is the bigger number. The way I would read this is 27 is less than 28. 28 is greater than 27. 15 is greater than 12. 12 is less than 15. So whichever part of that symbol we hit first, if I hit the small part first, it's less. If I hit the big open part first, it's more. It's very visual thing, guys, very visual. Okay, we are going to start a brand new section in our notes today. So if you like to keep your notes nice and organized, you can create a new title. We're going to call it Unit 3. And it is Inequalities. Unit 3, Inequalities. So, first of all, we want to figure out what on earth is an inequality. That might be a brand new word you've never heard before. So, I'm going to give you a little definition. In the previous unit, we were working with equations, if you guys remember. And an equation, for example, would be something like n plus 3 equals 5. So when we have an equation, we are comparing two values that are equal to each other. So whenever we solve for n, we know that it needs to be whatever number I add to 3 to come up with 5. We compare two equal values. So in this case, n would be 2. 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. Now, an inequality is different. You hear that unequal. It's unequal. It's not equal. So what's happening is it is a number sentence, kind of like an equation, but we will be comparing values that are not equal. So instead of showing that these are the same, we're comparing them. We're comparing them and showing different values. So to give you a definition, I'm going to say it is a number sentence that compares two values. So let me give you an example of an inequality. I'm going to use the same numbers as I did here in this equation. I'm going to put n plus 3 is greater than 5. N plus 3 is greater than 5. So when we solve equations, what would our first step be here? If this was an equal sign, what would we do first?
Subtract 3.
We would subtract 3 from both sides. So let's do that. Minus 3, minus 3. My 3's would cancel out like we just learned about. And then I'd bring down my n. And this time, instead of bringing down an equal sign, we're bringing down that greater than sign. The only thing that's different is the symbol in between the numbers. Now 5 minus 3 is 2. So we just found this answer here, and this is how we would read it. We would say n is greater than 2. What that means is if we put any number back into this inequality, and if that number is bigger than 2, then it will be true. So for example, let's pick a number greater than 2. How about 3? I'm going to do 3 for n. So 3 plus 3 is greater than 5. And let's solve that. What's 3 plus 3? 6. And then I'll bring that down, is greater than 5. Is this true? It sure is. It sure is. That is absolutely true. N could be 3, n could be 4, n could be 10 million. All we need to know is that anytime we put a number for n in this specific inequality, it has to be bigger than 2. Now, do you think that I could include the number 2 in my answers? Could I say that 2 plus 3 is greater than 5?
No, that would be,
No, let's look at that. So I'm going to put 2 for n. 2 plus 3 is greater than 5. What's 2 plus 3?
2, wouldn't it?
What's 2 plus 3? 5 is greater than 5. Is that true?
No.
No, it's not true. 5 is equal to 5.
Yeah.
This is not true. So the difference here is that our answer, when we say that n is greater than 2, it is any number that's bigger than 2, but it is not including 2. It is not 2. 2 does not work. It could be 2.1. It could be 2.2. It could be 10 million, but it cannot be 2 because it will not make a true number sentence. Okay, let's do another one of those. We're going to do a little bit of practice solving these and understanding what our answer means. Let's do negative 3n is greater than 15. What would I do first here? I would divide. Negative 3n means negative 3 times n, so we use our inverse operations. I'm going to divide by what? Good, by negative 3 on both sides. Okay, my negative 3's will cancel, and then I'm left with n, and what else am I writing down here? Yep, n is greater than, what's 15 divided by negative 3? Negative 5. Okay. So in this case, n is any number that is bigger than negative 5. Could n be negative 5? No, it could not. Because if I plugged negative 5 into this inequality, I would get negative 3 times negative 5 is greater than 15. And that's going to be 15 is greater than 15. And that is not true. 15 is equal to 15. It's not bigger. It's the same. So we know now that in this inequality, n can be any number that's bigger than negative 5. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Anybody still need that? All right. I would like you to solve this one with me. Let's do 3. Get that where you can see it. 3n plus 4 is less than 10. Okay. What would I do here? Minus 4. Good. We'll subtract 4 from both sides. And then what? Yes, my 4's will cancel out. So I'm left with what? We're going to read it left to right. What comes first? Less than. Good. Less than 6. Good. 10 minus 4 is 6. All right. What's next? Divide by 3. Okay, my 3's are canceled. And now I have what at my answer? What am I putting?
2.
Read me the whole answer. N is less than 2. Good. So if I put any number for n, it just has to be smaller than 2. It could be 1.99999. That would work. But can it be 2? No. It has to be smaller than 2 because that's what we found in our answer. N is any number that is smaller than 2. Perfect.
Pretty much what we've been doing,
It really is.
just greater and less than.
It is. It's just a different symbol and making sure we know how to read it properly.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. And then I'm going to teach you the graphing part. You guys are kind of flying through this. So seriously, if you have any questions, stop me. I want to make sure you all feel good about this. -3 minus 3n is less than 6. What should I do first? Add 3. Good. Add 3 on both sides. And then what? My 3's will cancel, so what am I left with? Good. Thank you for dropping that negative down. -3n less than 9. All right, now what is next? Divide by -3. My -3's cancel. And what's my answer? N is what? The -3. Less than -3. Good job, guys. Very, very good job. Now, before we go to the graphing, can N be -3? No. It has to be something smaller than -3. All right. New section. This is Unit 3 still, obviously, but we are now learning how to graph an inequality. How to graph an inequality. Okay, so let's just use one of these that I came up with here. We came up with N is less than 2. So I'm going to write that here, and I'm going to show you how you would graph this. And I'll tell you right now, it is very easy. Like, I really think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's like getting the color. So we're going to start by drawing a line, like a number line. And something that I find super helpful is labeling where my numbers get bigger and where my numbers get smaller. So on the far right side, I put a plus sign. On the far left side, I put a minus sign. And this is just showing me what's happening to my numbers as I move in those directions. So next, we're going to draw a little tick mark. And before I show you what this graph will look like, I want to tell you what this graph is going to mean. So whenever I graph an inequality, all I'm doing is giving you a visual representation of every possible number that N could be. So we are going to write the number 2 right here because this is the point that we're given. N is any number less than 2. So we're going to start by labeling that tick mark with the number 2. And then, because N is less than 2, not equal to 2, we're going to circle this tick mark and leave it an open circle. We're not going to shade it in because when we leave it open, it's showing us visually that 2 is not included. It's not included. Now, all we have to do is show a way that is going to tell us that any of the numbers that are smaller than 2 are possible values for N. So I'm just going to take my little color and I'm just going to color in everything that's smaller than 2. And that's it. That's how you graph it. That's not so bad, is it? It's not so bad. That's it. We're going to do a bunch more examples. We got this, guys. Okay. let's try n is greater than 2. All right. So to start my graph, we're going to draw a line just like that. We put arrows on both sides to show that we're going infinitely in either direction. The numbers never end on either side. Now all I need to do is put a little tick mark in the middle, and we're still using 2 as our comparing number. We know that n is any number that is bigger than 2. So I'm going to write a 2 right here. All right. Now next, we know that since n is a number bigger than 2, 2 is not included. So we're going to circle it and we're not going to color it in. Anything that we shade in on a graph is included as a solution. So when I color something, it means that this is a possibility for n. This is any number that's less than 2. To show that n could be any number bigger than 2, which direction do you think I should shade?
The right.
Yeah, to the right, to the direction where numbers get bigger. So we're just going to do this. And that's it. That's how we show it. That is how we show it. Not too bad, not too bad. Now, what confusion do we have? Is anybody feeling lost? Speak now. I want to help. Okay, let's run through another example. How about, let's do n is less than -10. What should I do first? Yeah, let's draw the line first. All right. Then I'm going to label my plus and minus. And guys, whenever I quiz you over this, I'm already going to have this line, the plus and the minus and the tick mark drawn for you. All you will have to do is to know what number to put here, in which direction to shade, and whether you circle, like if you have it open or if you have it shaded in. In this case, we are not going to be shading our circles. So I have my line made. What number am I putting right here above my tick mark? -10. That's the number we're given. So -10. Now, whenever it says n is less than -10, does that mean that 10 is a possible value for n? Can n be 10? No, it cannot, because -10 is not less than -10. It's equal to -10. So we don't include -10 in our answer. So just like before, we circle the tick mark, but we don't shade it in. If we shaded it in, that would mean that -10 is a possible solution. Now, all I gotta do is figure out which direction to shade. So what do y'all think? To the left, because n is less than -10. Another nice thing that we can notice about these inequalities when we graph them, our symbol literally tells us what direction to shade in. This is like a little arrow. You see that? It tells us to go that way. Just like here, when we have n is greater than 2, it's literally an arrow pointing to which way you shade. It's not so bad, guys. Not so bad. All right. All right, all right. I want you guys to try to do a couple of these on your own. I'm just going to give you 2. I want to make sure you guys feel good about this. Give you a few minutes to try it. I want you to graph these 2 inequalities by yourself. Let's do n is less than negative 5, and n is greater than 12. All right, I'm going to pause the recording, so if anyone is watching at home, they can try too. We'll come back with the answers. Okay. Number 1, I have n is less than negative 5. What did you guys do?
Shade to the left.
Yeah, shade to the left. So let me draw this line and make sure that I know exactly what you mean. So you did this first, right? Okay.
Negative 5.
Negative 5 goes here. Circle, open circle or shaded circle? Open circle. And you shaded which way?
Left.
To the left. Good. Awesome. All right, I'll go ahead and draw this because I'm sure y'all got that far at least. There we go. What number? 12.
Open.
Open.
To the right.
To the right. Boom. That's easy, right, guys? Come on. Come on. That's too easy. Okay. All right. You want your exit ticket?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let me get it. Your exit ticket today, we're adding one more tiny step. All I need you to do, don't be scared. You guys got this. First, you're solving this. It's n plus 3 is greater than 10. Whatever you find out that n is, graph that. Whatever you figure out n is, graph that. So just like we were doing before, you solve this just like a normal equation. You just solve it like an equation, and you're going to get n is greater than something. Whatever that something is, graph it, and you're free to go. All right, I am going to stop this recording. And when you finish, you are free to go.